recording it. If you can mute yourself, or I can do it from my, yeah, perfect. Hello, Valerie. Then a little bit about myself. Then my name is Radka Prusha, and I was born in Czech Republic in Prague, and this is where I received my first master's degree in biology. And I moved to Canada and end up in Montreal and started to work at the McGill University at the breast cancer research and bone marrow transplant. And after 9 years working in the cancer research, I really wanted to be working in the wellness industry. Then we moved to the West Coast, and I started to work in a naturopathic clinic, and I absolutely love it. I love environment, I love helping others, I love learning and education, and I fell in love with nutrition and actually sign up for the program and the master's in nutrition. Then as I was finishing my degree, then I was able to open my nutritional practice, and almost everyone who came to my practice had digestive problem or thyroid problem. And then I said to myself, I better study the thyroid. Then I decided my master's thesis will be on thyroid imbalances. So then that it is really very much overlooked. The problem, it is one of the most underdiagnosed issue, and then I hope I will bring some light to it to you. Then that it's my goal. Then and I will be talking about some thyroid self-care. It's why this presentation calls thyroid self-care, what you can do from your end, how you can help that gland to be working properly. Then if we look our health, then that is that body, mind, spirit connection, and everything it's influencing in our body, everything. Then you can't just take the thyroid and see it just as the gland. It's influence everything, and everything else influence your thyroid function, from the digestion, from your mind, stress, and so on. Then thyroid gland is here on your neck, and most people, they don't know even where it is because they don't have any problem. But when you started to feel something is going on, then you know about that existence. And then a little bit about how thyroid works. Then this is the thyroid gland, and it's that nice butterfly shape. It's that butterfly, it's always symbol around the thyroid. And then thyroid function, its influence, which we call something the hypothalamus pituitary thyroid axis. Then it all works on a negative feedback inhibition. Then hypothalamus, which is on the back of our brain, sending this thyroid releasing hormone. And this hormone is actually influencing our pituitary, and that it's stimulated and create a thyroid stimulating hormone, which is one of the hormones which is mostly tested by the physicians, but it's not sufficient. And I will go more in the details about the proper functional testing. Then the thyroid gland, it's producing the 3 different hormones, T4, T3, and the gland, which we call parathyroid, it's under here, under the thyroid gland, and it's producing calcitonin, which is very important in the bone health. And before we go more into the thyroid function and so what we can do about it, I would like to talk to you more about our cells because we are created from trillions and trillions of cells, And the cells, they create our organs and create us. Then if we have healthy, happy cells, then we have healthy organs and we are healthy. But if anything is happening with that cells, a very, very complex machinery, then we started to suffer. And that it's including the thyroid imbalances as well. And a little bit about our cellular function, then around our cell, we have something which we call cellular membrane. And why I'm talking about is because the cellular membrane, it's responsible from any interaction which is going from outside of the cells to inside of the cells, including the signaling your book of life, DNA, and your genes to be producing certain things, including your thyroid hormones. Then, then if the cellular membrane is nice and healthy, then all works very nicely. That other very important organelle beside nucleus, it's something which we call mitochondria. And mitochondria is this energy factory in our body. And as you will see through the presentation, no proper function of the thyroid hormones, it's actually disabling that mitochondria are doing the job producing that energy, and actually start to even decrease amount of mitochondria in the cells. For example, our brain cells, our heart cells, because they are very active organs, they have up to 800 mitochondria in one cell. Fat cells, they have no mitochondria. Then again, that it's, we will go more into detail of the oxidative stress, but have this powerhouse of our body in your mind, because that it's creating that energy. And if that cellular membrane, which is mostly this very fragile, which we call polyunsaturated fatty acids, if it gets destroyed, something which we call oxidative stress. What is oxidative stress of free radical damage? It's really our pay back because we are alive, because this energy factory mitochondria, when it's creating from the glucose the energy, then that exhaust, like in a car, is in our body, is that oxidative stress, free radicals. And the free radicals, they can be increased by any kind of stress, nutritional, physical, emotional, can be drugs can be causing it, and so environmental toxins and so on. But we have something we have which we call antioxidants. They can protect us from this damage. And for example, if you take the apple and cut it in half and leave it on the air, what will happen to it? They will become brown because the proteins and fats in that apple, they get destroyed by that oxidative stress from the air. But if you sprinkle on it some lemon before it get brown, then it stays nice and light, and you enjoy to eat it because you protect it not only with vitamin C, but other 100 antioxidants which there are in that lemon. And this is exactly what is happening in our body. And why the cellular membrane is so important, as I mentioned, because through the cellular membrane goes all the signals from outside inside, and including on cellular membrane, we have something which we call receptors. And these receptors, they are for the certain nutrients, for the certain hormones, and so on. Then even for the thyroid hormone. Then again, we can have a thyroid hormone floating in our bloodstream, but if this is damaged, that interaction between outside, inside of the cells, nothing too much will be happening. It's why that protection of this oxidative stress and inflammation, it's the key to actually any degenerative disease, including the thyroid function. And again, what we eat and so on, and we will go all more in the details. Then, when I run my nutritional practice, we were using something which we call nutritional symptomology questionnaire. And I know there are some sophisticated tests, blood tests, which you can be using, but very often we know the answers. We know how do we feel, but nobody is asking us that question, right? Then, and there are all some symptoms which they are all attached to this dysfunction of the thyroid. We will be mostly here talking about which we call subclinical hypothyroidism. It means it really, your blood test is still showing everything normal, but you have all the symptoms or some of them. And mostly doctor tells you, you know, I'm sorry, it must be in your head. And I will give you some antidepressants or anti-anxiety pills and just go home. And this is why I became so passionate about it, because I started to see in my practice, I can be actually helping, especially mostly ladies. They have more problem with the thyroid hormone. In my opinion, it's because we are running so many different shows through the day, then multitasking, then that stress is quite a high. And these are some of the symptoms. We can go over cold hands and feet, sensitivity to cold, hair, they are becoming brittle, loss of hair, you know, nauseated in the morning, slow in the morning, going fast later on, hypoglycemia, go to pieces. And it is true, like I could see like a lot of people, they can't to cope with any kind of stress, drives them nuts, right? Or very often hypo and hyper with certain, especially with autoimmune diseases, it's so one day they are hyper and one day they are hypo. One day they are depressed and really their mind doesn't work. Next day they are very, very intense and anxiety it's very high. Then it's really because the thyroid hormone plays a metabolic function of every cell. Then it's really influencing any kind of function in our body, from the headaches to depression, from the low pulse rate, sinuses infection, infertility. We go over a lot of symptoms, and it's actually linked to the breast cancer as well, and actually any cancers, because again, it's disabling the function, proper immune system function, and so on. Then again, that health web, right? It's and thyroid is big part of it. Other conditions associated with thyroid are autoimmune diseases. And what autoimmune diseases are, it's very often, and actually they are all starting in our guts. We all know our gut health, it's very important. All medicine, functional medicine say 85% of our health, it's in our gut. And it's why the dysbiosis or having healthy microbiome, it's extremely important. And same it is with the thyroid function. And what it's autoimmune disease, it's literally in the lining of the gut, something, for example, gluten can be one of it, can make literally holes in that very fine lining. And the proteins or food particles, which they should not be in the bloodstream. It's why we call it leaky gut syndrome, leaks in the bloodstream. And what it's in your blood, it's your immune system cells, and they go and they start to destroy it because it should be not in the blood. And but when it's overacting over and over again, eventually the immune system start to attack your own organs. And this is what Hashimoto autoimmune disease is. And I saw it over and over again. It's just taking people off the gluten and that their symptoms improve extraordinary. Right? And if you don't do nothing else and take just people off the gluten, if they have actually any autoimmune disease, then that is a huge help. Okay, and the Graves' disease, which is actually producing the antibodies, which they stimulate the thyroid stimulating hormone receptor. That means the the people, they get hyperthyroidism. It means they are running marathon, metabolic marathon 24/7. Then they are exhausted, they are losing weight, they are irritable, they can't concentrate. It's they have diarrhea. Then it's really not fun, right? Then the low thyroid, you are very sluggish, gaining well. Hyperthyroid, it's completely opposite, right? And very often in something between. Then now this is very important to look at the conditions which they can be associated with thyroid dysfunction. And for example, fatigue and free radical damage. And do you remember we were talking about that mitochondria, which is creating that energy? Then actually researchers, they found if you don't have enough of the T3 and T4, then that energy, that ATP, that mitochondria can't work properly. And it's why people, they are so tired, they can't even exercise and so on, because, and it's increasing that oxidative stress as well. Other one, it's cardiovascular diseases, elevated cholesterol. That is very important because thyroid hormone actually helps with the metabolism of the fats, essentially fatty acids. Then very often when you have people, they have elevated cholesterol, well, it will be very smart. First, check your thyroid before putting you on a lowering cholesterol medication. Insulin resistance is big again because the thyroid hormone is very important for that blood sugar balancing, then and having not be resistant to the insulin. Then again, it's that blood sugar regulation. It's big thing in people which they have problem with the thyroid hormone. Infertility is big one again, and you know, our fertility clinics are full of people which they would love to have babies, so they are constantly having miscarriages, but nobody really address their thyroid and so on. Then you could see it actually can create all this parts of the dysfunctions which they have a lot of to do with thyroid. Then let's look again at how the thyroid, what is here so important. Then again, we have the thyroid stimulating hormone telling to thyroid to secrete T4 and T3. But what is very important, that T3, which is the active form, is the most important thyroid hormone, so much more important than T4. They are both important, but T3 is one who is running most of the show. And other one is this R, which is we call reverse T3, which plays very important role if you are in starvation mode. And it's why dieting actually can destroy your thyroid function. And then what we can do, how we can improve that conversion of T4 to T3. Then we have some answers to that. But what can actually causing it is the stress. You know, 90% of any kind of illness under cause is the stress. In my nutritional practice, when I had my intake of the client, one of the questions was, do you remember you had some very stressful situation in your body, something really what you will never forget? And suddenly your health started to go downhill from that moment. And almost 90% of my clients, they remember exactly what happened, exactly the day, and exactly what started to happening with them after. Then again, stress, if you do anything else, just manage your stress. And I know we are now living in not fun time, then it's more easy to say than to do. Then just really breathing, go for a walk, breathe deeply, and enjoy little things, right? Then other very important is that having good liver function, kidney function. And why it's that? Because this is where that conversion of T4 to T3 mostly happening. Even in our brain, we have the special cells in our brain, which we call astrocytes. And there is that conversion to T4 to T3 happening, then your brain is working properly. And we talk about this not dieting, because what is happening when people, they go to this yo-yo diets and they really almost starve themselves to do that, then your body thinks, oh, that person is hungry and it's dying, then I have to stop that metabolism, and reverse T3 starts to get produced and stop that metabolism. Then, and at the moment when you start to eat normally, then people, they gain double of the weight, but really thyroid doesn't like to be doing that yo-yo. Then just be very careful with the dieting. There are so many nicer ways how you can keep yourself healthy. And what helps with conversion? Then anti-inflammatory diet, Mediterranean diet, it's ideal because you have a lot of plants, a lot of fruits and vegetables, some fish. Again, enough calories, zinc and selenium, because they are very important. They are part of the enzyme which is helping that conversion of the T4 to T3. Again, stress level and gut health, very, very important. Then what kind of tests? Then very often in a doctor's office, they will measure just your TSH, the thyroid stimulating hormone. But what we need to know is T4, total T3, free T4, free T3, thyroid antibodies, because the sometimes takes to people up to 20 years to finally get diagnosed with autoimmune disease, that including even thyroid. Then it's really a lot of struggle. I know a lot of people which they suffer for many, many years before finally find out what is really going on and reverse T3. And if you'll be interested, I can send it to you. You can just send me a Facebook message or text, or ask person who invited you. But this is thyroid self-care as well. Then Dr. Broda Barnes, he wrote in 1976 book Hypothyroidism and Suspected Illness, and he was an endocrinologist, and he developed this basal body temperature test, then where you can actually measure your temperature, because our body, it's really the biochemical reaction that are happening in a very narrow window of body temperature. And then what you can do, you can take thermometer, put it beside you on your night table. If you have mercury, then already shake it before you go sleep, then you don't have to do any movement. And you can use digital as well. And when you wake up in the morning, before you move, you take the thermometer, put it under your armpit, leave it there for 10 minutes, and you can do a reading. And if that reading is 36.5, and it should be between 36.5, 36.8. If it's below 36.5, then most likely you have underactive thyroid. If it's above 36.8, then mostly your thyroid is overactive. Then again, this is a very simple test, and if you want, I can send you all the protocol about it. And if there are ladies which they are still active in the menstrual cycle, then it's day 2, 3, and 4 in their cycle. Other key influences of our thyroid function is, of course, our nutrition. And we talk about is avoiding the gluten. nutrients. We will go more in the details to certain nutrients which they influence your thyroid function. Having that healthy microbiome, extremely important, and healthy gut. And negatively, we can actually influence that our thyroid function is the toxins, which they cause that environmental toxins, thyroid dysfunction, and of course the stress. And then one of the toxins, which fluoride, which we call halogens, fluoride and chlorine, why they are so detrimental to our thyroid function, because they have very similar structure as the iodine. And then when they are floating in our bloodstream, then our thyroid gland actually uptake them as well, thinking, oh, this is the iodine. And it actually can cause a lot of problems. Heavy metals, they again can disable completely your thyroid function. And yeast endotoxins. These yeast endotoxins, they literally stop that they sit on these receptors for the thyroid hormone, that interaction can't to happen. Then if any yeast dysfunctions, then please get it checked and deal with it. Then we will be talking now about some specific nutrients. Iodine, which is that very important part of the thyroid hormone, because you have that amino acid tyrosine, and iodine is attached to it. Then T4 has 4 of them and T3 has 3 of them. Then again, iodine, it's extremely important. Selenium, as I said, it's a very important part for that T4, T3 conversion enzyme. And, if you eat 2 Brazil nuts a day, that will give you enough selenium for the day. Zinc, the same, influencing secretion of the thyroid stimulating hormone. Vitamin A, E, B12, and B6. Very often, people which they have thyroid dysfunction, their B12, it's very low. And chromium, and iron, and amino acid tyrosine, which again, that's a building block of our thyroid hormone. And essential fatty acids. Then where you find mostly all of it, it's in the plants, right? Then now researchers are telling us we should be eating 13 servings of raw fruits, vegetables a day. This is the serving, my list. Then it's quite a lot of fruits and vegetables a day, right? Like how many we had today? Well, I try to do my best, and sometimes it's like 5, 6. Then again, all these different beautiful nutrients, which we call phytonutrients, which they are in the whole food and the fruits and vegetables, they are protecting you from any kind of illnesses, and they are feeding your cells. They are nice and happy and healthy, including your thyroid. And I will share now with you a story of my friend. This is my friend Roxanne, which I met 17 years ago. And her story was she is mom of 2 kids, and she started to have all the symptoms which we were showing with the hyperthyroid function. She didn't know what it is. She went to see her physician. It took him 2 years to finally diagnose her. And she was getting to the point when she had to ask her kids if she fed them. Her memory was so bad. And she was fitness instructor. She is fitness instructor. Then when I met her, I started her on the program, nutritional program, which is mostly, again, these beautiful phytonutrients. It's a whole food concentrate and vegan omegas. And, within few months, she started to be completely different person. She ended up, of course, before that, she ended up on a Synthroid medication when they finally diagnosed her. But very often, that especially that conversion of T4, T3, it's all happening on a cellular level, that when you started to feed your body properly, it started to really repair, right? And what I love about this nutritional program is first the simplicity, and it's backed up by 40 clinical studies. And some of them, they are showing how decreasing oxidative stress, which is very important for the thyroid function, decreasing inflammation, improving your immune system function, improving nutritional statuses in your bloodstream, then every cell which is created, it's getting healthier and healthier. Then if you would like to know more about this program, then you can again uh, ask person who invited you, or you can send me email on my email address, which is my name, Radka Prusha @gmail.com. Or if you are watching this on the Facebook, you can send me heart or send me the Facebook private message, and I will get back to you. And now that this is all the presentation, then the conclusion is like, I know we are now probably more in this kind of rain is how we feel. But after every rainbow comes, and after comes the sunshine. Then just breathe. It will be everything just fine, and take good care of yourself.